Hey, it's Evan Melendez here, and I'm going to talk about mass creating parent conferences through the use of calendar events and the web desk. Now, to get started, we're going to head over to the calendar module, and we want to make sure that we're in the school calendar. Now, we do this because the calendar events have to be created in each school. Also, you figure that the parent-teacher conferences may be slightly different from school to school. So calendar, school, and I want to go to the calendar setup, and this is where I can create school-specific events or days off. Now, to create a new event, I want to click on the New Event tab, and this will set me up in a school calendar event screen in which I can name it. Now, you want to be mindful of your name here because this is going to be the name that's going to display on the parent portal when they go to select the event. So I'm going to say Fall Conferences because that's what I'm going to create. Now type, now this drop down is going to have teacher conferences in it. You can actually change what is in this drop down if you like or add to it, and I'll show you that in just a sec. I'm going to set what dates we're going to do. So I'm going to do multiple dates for this one event, and what I'm going to do is set it up for next week, and it's going to be Wednesday through Friday for our teacher conferences. So it's going to be 3 days, and that's important. Attendance is definitely taken. Make sure that you do that if school's in session on the days that you're having it. Even if they're half days, make sure attendance is taken this day. So click Add. So now Genesis High School has a set of the parent-teacher conferences. Now, if you want to, because I made it a 3-day, if you wanted to have things broken up, because this was 3 days in a row, if I wanted to break them up over time into a different set, maybe 2 days 1 week, 2 days another week, I'd want to create 2 of these events. One for the first 2 days and the other for the next set of 2 days. Or maybe it's 1 day, 1 week, 1 day, another week. Whatever it is, just be mindful of your dates. Sometimes you could do it with one, and other times you may want to set up multiple. Now, to create the other types of conferences, if I go to the district and calendar setup, there's an event types tab, and I can always add to this if I'd like to. So if teacher conferences doesn't exist at your district, you can always come in here and add it there. It's really not the most important thing in the world to have the type of teacher conference in there, as nobody else is going to see it except for the internal staff. Okay, so now that I have the calendar event set up, I am going to go into the web desk. I'm going to do that by clicking on my name in the top right hand corner. You can also access it from the module drop down however you want, but that's the fastest way. I'm going to go over to the setup tab, and within there is a conference setup wizard. So when I click that, I will be presented with the conference setup wizard screen in which I can do a whole bunch of things to set this up however I'd like. So first off is picking the staff members that I want to assign the conferences to. Now in most cases you're going to want to do it for all of them. But this first drop down lets me select any of the staff members that my own login has, which might be useful in certain cases, but most likely not in the parent-teacher one. The second drop down lets you break it down by department or choose all teachers in the school, and that's generally the way that you're going to go about it. The third option is specific staff list. Now, you can create staff list by going to the staff module, the search screen, and virtually works exactly the same way as creating student list. You search for them, you check them off, and you can go down to the bottom and add them to a new staff list. So we'll just go new staff list and click add. And you could do it that way, and it creates a staff list for you. You can also manage your list by going to the staff edit list tab. So very familiar, very similar to the way that you manage and create your student static lists. I'm going to head back over to the web desk and go to my conference setup wizard. So I'm going to create a conference for every teacher in the school. I'm going to, now what dates would you like to create the conferences for? So we're using a calendar event, which is the recommended setup for your parent-teacher conferences. I'm going to check that one off, and I'm going to select the fall conferences that I created. Now, keep in mind, remember what I said before, that it's per school. So I'm in Genesis High School, so that exists. When I go to the middle school, it's not going to exist because I didn't create it. So you want to go through the whole process again for each school. So we actually allow you to check or uncheck specific days that are covered in our date range in the calendar event. So that gives you a little flexibility from this conference creator screen in how you mass create your conferences. So what time will the conferences start? So they're going to begin at 7 o'clock p.m. and the reason is going to be for parent meeting, and the location will be in the teacher's classroom. And reason and location, those are things that you can change in the setup codes part of the system. Should be different. There should be a conference reason and conference location table that you can edit. How long will each conference last? Well, let's just say 25 minutes. And how much time in between the conferences? I'll say 5. So that way they're 30-minute blocks with a 5-minute break or spacing time in between, just in case there's a little overflow. And we're going to say that we're going to go for 6 conferences in that night. Now, you know, set it up however your time and everything is going to be set up in your district and school. But this is how I'm doing it. And show these conferences in the parents module. So I'm going to say yes. If you leave that at no, you could always go back at another time and push them out to the parents module, but I want these on the parents module. So first, you're going to click this button and you're going to preview what it's going to create. So just double check that your conference start and end times are exactly the way you wanted it. And I wanted it to go from 7 o'clock to just about 10, and that's the way I set it up. This symbol means that I've said yes for the parents module. And if I scroll down, these are all the teachers that are going to be affected. So I'm going to click Create Conferences because that's what I want. Would you like to proceed? Say OK. That may take some time if you have all your teachers selected, but there we go. It's finished. The conferences were all created successfully. I'm going to click close on that message. So great. I set up the event and I have all of the conferences created for the teachers. I am not finished just yet because now I have to handle the parent portal and making sure that the parents can view and select the conferences that I've set up the way that I want them to. Now, how do we do that? We're going to go over to the parent access part of the system. We're going to click on Setup, Settings, School Settings, and we're going to go over to Conferences. So this is the main control center for our parent-teacher conferences. Now, I've created one calendar event, and I'm going to select that fall conferences. So one thing to note here is it says 3, but it keeps expanding as you create more. We just have it set to 3 on the screen at first. So I want to select which ones are currently open. There's only one there now, so nothing else needs to be open. Show parent conferences. So this is the master on-off switch for that tab to even show the conferences tab in the parent portal. I want to check that off. Now, this is interesting because can schedule conference for event. We're doing calendar events. That's how we're scheduling these. So we want to make sure that this is the box that we use, not this one. That's a different type of scheduling of a conference. And we'll get into that at another point in time. So Guardian accounts, student accounts. Which ones are able to request conferences? This is a parent-teacher one, so I'm restricting it to Guardian only. Now, show all courses, show all course teachers. So what that means is if a course has multiple teachers assigned to it, if you have this checked off, then the parents will be able to select the conference with each teacher that's on there. So maybe you don't want to do that because your gyms have 5 teachers, you have a whole bunch of co-teaching instances, and you only want the primary or the very first teacher that's listed on the section to show up. So I can leave that off, maybe get a little bit too busy with the number of teachers that are on there. Only display courses that are meeting either on the conference day itself, which is useful, or you could use the meet marking periods. So that's talking about the course itself. Is it a marking period 1, 2, 3 for a course? In most instances, I like to just use that, check them all off, so that way I don't run into an issue of dates or not having the right marking periods checked off. I just want to make sure that the conferences show up for all my courses, but you have the flexibility and the control with that option. So I'm going to click Save Settings, and now the Conference tab and the specific conference that I've set up here should now be available in the parent portal. There is one more bit of access that the parents will need on their own accounts though. And to do that, I'm going to go over to setup. So I'm still in parent access. I'm going to users, and I'm going to look up a login ID. So I'm going to look up my own. Click modify, and I want to make sure that my parent accounts are set up as follows. So one, make sure there's a type of login set. This is a parent account, so it's guardian. Two, I want to make sure that the relationship is set. The relationship status is set to a guardian, because that ultimately grants the access to the conferences tab for this individual if the conferences tab is open up. And you can control it per student, which is nice, but you'll notice that the roles themselves don't actually have a conference check, because it's really controlled by just the relationship piece, and of course on the other screen when we even turn the conference tab on for the specific school. So you want to make sure that the relationship and type of logon is set up for your parent accounts. Now, for those of you that haven't set that or been setting that for your parent accounts and student accounts, when you've created it, do not panic. If I head over to the maintenance tab underneath parent access, we actually have some tools that will help you out in mass setting that. So there's two different options for running this tool. So one, you could run it and it will only set the type of logon for users that don't have it set, so that's the blanks. And then you could also run it for only users that don't have a relationship code. So depending on which one I pick, it'll fill out the type of logon, and I can run it again, and it'll fill out the relationship status for the user. So you select which one you want to do, you run the tool, it figures it out based on the email addresses in the contact system as well as the email addresses in the actual logon. So that ties the information together, and it figures out all the different scenarios. It goes through any type of restrictions due to custody issues, things like that, and it will set the types as well as the relationship status for you there. Alright, so now that we've gone through all the setup, I want to know what the parents see. Head over to my other tab where I have the parent account up. So I created it in the high school, so I have my high school student selected here. The conferences tab is now available, so I'm going to click on that, and I can see the conferences that we've scheduled as well as made available based on the calendar events. So because of the calendar event, it's going to show up just like this, scheduled conference for fall conferences. That's what we named it. If I click on that, it's going to open up the screen where I can now select the conferences. So I have quite a few teachers here based on my schedule, and I have the 3 dates available for each teacher. So the calendar event style is the best because we've already picked the dates. It's the easiest for the parents to end up using. So I can reserve the calendar event, and by doing that, a few things are going to change. So one, nobody else can take that calendar event from me. If somebody else actually had that time, it would have been in red, and I would not have been able to select it. And that's the way it's going to show up for other people in that course, because that 7 o'clock spot with Hank and Mike in creative writing, they are booked. So I can always cancel it if I'd like to, but you'll notice that I can't pick another time with that same exact teacher. For this event, I have selected all I can for this course and this teacher at that time. So if you want the parents to have the flexibility of being able to schedule an appointment with the same teacher on multiple dates during the event, you're going to want to create multiple calendar events. One for the Wednesday, one for the Thursday, and one for the Friday. It's a little bit more cumbersome. Usually you don't want them to. You just want them to have the one time during the event with the teacher, and that's it. So the other things that happens here is yellow shows up for these other teachers in the classroom, just letting me know that I already have a conference scheduled for the exact same time on that date with somebody else. So I'm just going to pick a couple appointments here. On Wednesday, I can't make too many, so on Wednesday I can only do the one day, and then I got to leave. I'm going to do the rest on Thursday just to get that in, and you know what? I'm going to do these last ones on Friday. I'll work my way down that list and book them all. It's a pretty simple process for the parents to kind of fill out. And now that I've booked them, I can see on the screen everything that I've done. So if you do decide to take away the access for them to book them, once you feel that you've given them enough time to do the scheduling and you don't want them changing them, this part could disappear while the screen is still open. and they will be able to view the conferences piece that they've scheduled already. They can always print it out too by clicking this, and it'll give you a nice PDF printout. So now that they've scheduled some appointments here, what does the teacher see? Well, let's go back into Genesis on our side, and I go to my WebDesk, and I'm going to go to my calendar. Now, I am one of the teachers that has had conferences set up for me as well as scheduled. So in our previous WebDesk video, we did talk a little bit about setting up your WebDesk and your calendar. So I'm not going to get too much into that in this one. But what we're looking at here is the month view of the calendar, so I can see all the different meetings that I have broken down on the 3 days. I can also see that Kevin's parents scheduled a meeting at this time on that date with me. I could always go in, take a look, and I could view who picked it. Oh, Harry's on there. Go back. So these were all of the conferences that were mass created, and as they get booked, the teachers will be able to see it on the calendar, change status and with who. Now, a teacher could, maybe there was a phone call or a write-in because they don't have because their parents don't have access to the parent portal, and they decided to book this time. So teachers could always go in, or admins can go in and open up the available conference, and they can always just add manually an attendee, which I've selected the student, and I'm going to add the attendee. And now that I've done that, I'm going to change the status and say that it's scheduled. That's another thing too. You could always block one off, cancel it, complete it. So there's a little bit of control in there for the teachers as well as the administrators in the actual conferences that exist. Now, for those of you that don't like this view, you have a few others. You could do it by week, by day. My favorite view is the list when I'm dealing with all these conferences, because it can get a little overwhelming. I think this view is a little bit nicer for just handling all the conferences that you have, so you don't have to see the entire month if you're not using your calendar for anything else. You're just using it for the parent-teacher meeting, so you can see all this information, and you can sort it how you want. You can do it by date if you want to, and you could also change the statuses if I only want to see the scheduled, so I don't want to see the availables. I just want to see the scheduled, completed, requested, blocked, whatever status you set on there, it can break it down. If I want these to show up on the parent portal, I can as well, and take them away if I wanted to as well, or jump into the modify screen. And that wraps up mass creating parent conferences using the WebDesk